All right, guys. Friday Fire is here. And you know what? I think what I decided that we need, because we always talk about like how we open every podcast the same exact way. Here's a new thing that I'll say. And Liz and I we need to film and do maybe we'll do that today.
What are we doing?
Okay. If you listen and if you enjoy our podcast, the best thing that you can do for us is to subscribe to the podcast, share it with people, tag us in it. When you subscribe and rate the podcast, it gets higher ratings for us, obviously. We love that you listen. Please continue listening. But this is something that I've worked to do with podcasts like that I listen to because I know that it helps the podcast. So like if I'm listening to a podcast consistently, I subscribe to it. I rate it.
And leave us a comment. Leave us a review.
Totally.
We love those.
We love reviews. But please do so if you listen to the podcast consistently. We would love if you could do that for us.
So that's going to be our new opener?
Liz and I have been intending to record some inner pieces for podcasts, like when podcasts stop and there's like a short little blurb. We've been intending to do that for a couple months.
No one knows that I have written a cookbook, and we needed to do this like months ago. We still haven't done it. We'll do it today. We'll do it today.
We coach people, and people hire us for information, as you know, we have dedicated our lives to doing. So anyways, today, I love today's podcast.
I do too. Oh, it's going to be so good. You got to strap in for a ride.
Yes. Okay. So here's the thing. Stop blaming shiny objects is about the fact that, and here, there's going to be some caveats here. People want to think that they're special. And I'm not saying that you aren't special, guys. You are very special. You are a very
talented,
special person. You are a beautiful, wonderful, amazing person. Your health is not that special though. Meaning what you have going on is not particularly unique. It is not something that, is unlike anything that anyone's ever seen before. And it's not the only reason that you're not seeing progress. A lot of people have stuff going on, and we're going to get into things, but like a lot of people will blame and scapegoat with hormones, with slow metabolisms, with all of these things, when in reality, the answer is much simpler and within your control. And it's something that we don't want to face.
Yes. And we also have to evaluate consistency, because we want to blame hormones. We want to blame slow metabolism. We want to blame specific nutrients like, it must be that kombucha that I'm not drinking. That's the, reason that I'm not losing weight. We want to blame.
No, it's more like, in my opinion, it's like vegans and vegetarians and keto zealots and all of these people. Listen, all of the diets have benefits and cons to them, guys. Mm-hmm. There is no one size that is best for the entire population, in my opinion.
No.
I think that for the majority of the population, adequate protein, higher fat, more moderate carb is probably best, because most people are not extremely active.
And because that also removes a lot of the processed foods, the fried foods, the inflammatory oils, like the junk out there that is creating the diseases that we see today. Yes. These are the underlying factors to a lot of people's health issues. Mm-hmm. If we are insulin resistant, look at your diet. Are you eating a standard American diet? And instead, we want to say like, it's, as I just mentioned.
What is that stupid new commercial on TV? The low pro thing, I don't know. It's some like, if you've been struggling to lose weight, it's not because of this, it's because of insulin resistance. And I'm like, yeah, it probably is.
So they want to give you a pill.
They want to give you a pill. I think it's a pill. I'm not sure if it's a pill or a shot.
It's probably the new weight loss pill.
I've seen commercials on them for probably the past 6 to 8 months consistently. But yes, insulin resistance is probably your problem. But I promise you that a pill isn't going to fix it, just like insulin doesn't fix type 2 diabetes, guys. It doesn't fix it. It prolongs death, I suppose, by a very short period of time. Actually, some research shows only by 4 days. Oh, no, that's statins and high cholesterol. Sorry. But it's not fixing it. Nutrition and lifestyle fix it. And so we need to stop, you guys. We justify so much in our minds, and I am not immune to this. Like, believe me, I am the queen of justifications in my mind, but I have to reality check myself. And so today, whenever you're listening to this, we are going to reality check you.
Yep. Because I'm going to promise you that it's also not the perfect macro. Like, please stop hiring another coach because you want to look for another macro set. I had this conversation with the lady yesterday. I'm like, she was giving me very, very specific macronutrient intake
gosh.
compared to what this other coach and this other coach had to her. And I had to explain to her, it's not the macros. It is underlying dysfunction that's going on in your body. Got her lab work today. There's a lot of things that we need to work on before we ever even worry about macros with her, because we have got to get her inflammation down. We've got to get her body utilizing the nutrients that she's consuming, because she's not pooping. She poops twice a week. That's problematic. If we are not pooping, there are malabsorption issues, and there's a lot of things recirculating in your body, creating dysfunction. And if you're not pooping every single day, you're not detoxifying, and you're not getting all of the shit that's now recirculating in your body. So it's causing, for her, estrogen dominance. She has very high cholesterol. Like, there's other things going on. Her glucose is high, that we have to fix the root cause issues first. Then we can worry about macros, maybe 3 months from now. But it's not your macro calculator or your coach that gave you a macro.
Biggest. I coach. I thought that was my problem. So I would constantly look for different coaches to give me like some vastly different answer. And most of the coaches were going off of like body fat, my goals, age, height, weight. So my macros ended up being pretty much the same. And it was until I dug into it myself and I found the right coaches and the right support and the right education that I learned, oh, wait, no, it's the massive amount of stress on my body that is causing and wreaking havoc, and no macros are going to matter until I fix this stress. And so you guys, the macros, like, it is not about the macros. It's probably not even about like the perfect amount of calories that you're eating, because you're probably not doing it consistently enough. Yep. And that's the biggest problem. And the next one that I will say that people blame, fucking slow metabolism. Yes. I cannot.
Or my metabolism is broken, or my metabolism damaged. I'm going to say it once. If your metabolism is like dead, because someone told us that their metabolism was dead, you wouldn't be alive. Your metabolism is still functioning, but maybe there's things that you're doing in your life that doesn't optimize your metabolism.
It may be adapted. We've talked about it. Adaptation can 1000% happen with your metabolism. It will slow down energy systems within your body and essentially slow down what is known as, quote unquote, your metabolism. But you guys, your metabolism does 1,000 more things than burn calories. Like, that is not its purpose in the body. Yes. That is oversimplifying what the metabolism does. And
can we also say that there's no fucking fast metabolism foods?
You don't want your metabolism to be fast, believe it or not. You don't. Because guess what? If your metabolism is fast, it's going to be really hard for you to maintain muscle. It's going to be really hard for you to keep a healthy weight. Like, I know people that have, quote unquote, fast metabolisms. It's not a good thing for them. I promise you, you do not want a fast metabolism. You want a healthy metabolism.
We know a lot of people, male and female, with fast metabolisms. You guys, they struggle harder than people trying to lose weight, because they can't keep muscle on, and because of the amount of calories that they have need to be able just to maintain weight. I had a good friend of mine. He was having to do like 4,000 to 5,000 calories a day just to try to gain any type of muscle, because he was so skinny and so small. Thank God now he is like thriving. Yeah. He moved out to Denver, Colorado. He's like hiking, he's bodybuilding, like looks fantastic, but it took him years. And if you guys follow Mind Pump, we love them. This is very similar to Sal. Like, Sal's story is it took him years to start building muscle, and he had some gut issues going on. But if you have a fast metabolism, it can actually be damaging to health. Yeah. Because you can't eat enough to support what your body actually needs. And here's a fun fact. A lot of people who are trying to lose weight think that they have, like, an air quote here, slow metabolism. That's a very small percentage of people. And that is correlated to other underlying root cause issues and dysfunction in the body. But on average, overweight individuals have similar or faster metabolisms than lean individuals, because they are bigger body mass.
Yep. So you have more weight, you're usually eating more too.
Yes.
And so that is causing, when you eat more, guys, you burn more calories. It's just
thermic effect of food.
Yes, it is the truth of things. So it's not your slow metabolism. And if it is a adapted metabolism and you're blaming that, you are missing a big picture. You are missing a lot of ways that can be solved, and there can be solutions to what you're experiencing and the struggle that you're experiencing. The next thing, and this is the biggest one lately, is hormones. fucking hormones. Like, we talk a lot about hormones because hormones can limit things. They 100% can limit things when they are imbalanced, when they are not in a healthy state. Hormones are a symptom, though. They are not a root cause issue. They are a symptom of something else going on. And so they cannot be blamed, because guess what? Here's what I consider things like. I consider things that can be blamed, and maybe this is a very big blanket statement, things that you literally cannot change.
Yeah. So if you have autoimmune conditions, PCOS, endometriosis, yes, that is going to, those are hormonal. But even those issues.
Things, like those, I would say things that you're born with, like situations that you're born with can be blamed. They shouldn't be blamed for and become like defining limiting factors for you, because I think there's a way around everything, and that's a mindset situation. But like, hormones can't be blamed, because hormones are 1000%. You can impact hormones.
You can.
Positively, which impacts your results positively.
You got to work on the gut, support the liver, and you're going to have much better hormones.
Yes.
But most people don't do that. Right. And
the thing is people rarely know what hormones they're blaming.
That's very true.
And that's the thing that I think I'm going to start, like.
Must be the cortisol.
It must be
my testosterone.
Well, it's my hormones. But what hormones? And like, they don't really know how to explain how either.
Okay. It's not funny though at the same time.
I'm
like
sorry.
We're being very serious here, because I'm also thinking about like,
I think I just get like, there's an overwhelm of like all the conversations I've had probably.
Yes.
And I want to help people.
Yes.
And so I want people to know that they can be helped versus continuing to blame the things that we think define us.
There are some individuals that do have specific issues going on that, are impacted. Their hormones are impacted. Again, like I mentioned, PCOS, endometriosis, like those are things that are...
And menopause. Hormones are very unpredictable in menopause. I mean, I shouldn't say unpredictable. The shifts, you can't always predict when they're going to happen.
And it's very individualized in terms of how those shifts are going to happen. Totally. There's a lot of things that we can look at to see if your transition period is going to be, harder for, compared to other individuals. And so there's a lot of things that hormones are important for. And yes, they can be part of the picture, but we can't blame inconsistency. We can't blame our inconsistency on hormones.
Absolutely. And I will say this too. If you think that you have hormone problems, see an endocrinologist. And get proper testing too, because the standard testing for most things is not very inclusive. It is a snapshot usually. There are good and bad testings for a lot of things, including cortisol, including progesterone, testosterone, different forms of estrogen. And so we really like the Dutch test, but the Dutch test also isn't fully supported because it hasn't been around super long to be studied well. And so like, there's caveats everywhere here, but in our experience, blood work is not always the greatest for hormones, because especially for females, your hormones change on an hourly basis. And so if you're getting a picture, you would need to be testing that multiple times throughout the day. You would need to be testing it on the right days of the week, of the menstrual cycle, or of your, female cycle. And so that's hard to do. Cortisol testing, the same thing. Serum testing versus urine testing, like that's different there. And so this is the hard part about truly knowing. But if you do think that you have a hormonal issue, go and get diagnosed with a hormonal issue.
Yeah.
Like, and then don't let it define you, and go and figure out solutions for, okay, if I have low progesterone, what can I start doing to help support progesterone levels so my periods aren't as bad? I don't have as much estrogen dominant symptoms, like those types of things, versus just now saying like, oh, well, I have low cortisol, so I'm never going to be able to lose weight. Well, you have low cortisol for a reason, probably because you've stressed your body out so much that it's burned out on cortisol and it can't produce it well enough right now. So we need to remove some stress. Like, there's things here, and yes, a diagnosis helps. And I'm going on a rant, but anyways, so many people are obsessed with testing, and testing I think is very helpful in many situations, but people think like, well, if I know what's wrong with me, I'll feel better about it, but then they don't do anything about it. And that is where I get upset. If you want to get testing done. But guess what's a lot more effective for treating people? Symptoms.
Yep. And how do you treat the symptoms? You change your lifestyle. You change your diet. You
don't get a medication.
You support your body with the right amount of nutrients, antioxidants. You support your detoxification pathways. You eat enough protein. You eat enough vegetables, which is another thing that we're going to talk about, because some people go down these rabbit holes of like, well, it's the sugar, it's the carbs, it's the veggies in the case of like a carnivore diet, right? Or it's artificial sweeteners or lecitins or just whatever else they can find to blame for the lack of, again, consistency. And you guys, like, we're not saying this to be mean. We're saying this like, we want you to think hard about what these shiny objects are that we are pushing blame on for. Because at the end of the day, we are in control. We are in control of what we put into our bodies. And yes, there are absolutely things that are inflammatory. There are things that people just don't know about yet. That's why we do this podcast. Like seed oils, very inflammatory. Many people don't know. They don't realize every time you go out to eat and you consume even like salads, they're not making that salad dressing with olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil. They're not cooking your food in Kerrygold butter or lard or ghee. They're cooking it in all of these inflammatory seed oils, corn oil, grapeseed oil. The list goes on. Vegetable oils, that's one of the worst. It's like, we have to realize that every time we hit the drive-thru or we go out to eat, we are ingesting some inflammatory foods. Whether or not you choose the salad or you choose the burger and fries, burger is even worse because you're not getting high quality meat there. And you are then consuming, like, what do they say? You are what you eat. It's like you are what you ate. Right. And so if we're consuming low quality proteins, especially fattier meats, that is also inflammatory because you're now ingesting all of those antibiotics that those animals were fed. So this is where we have to be honest with ourselves and evaluate, like, am I really doing everything that I can to support my health? And if you are, that would look like maybe going out to eat 1 to 2 times a week, because we want to be realistic. This is, a lifestyle. We want you to go out and enjoy date night. We're not saying you can't ever go out to eat, but if we are going out to eat, maybe we're making smarter choices because we now have the education of how things are cooked. Maybe we do ask for sauce on the side, dressings on the side, and you manage the amount that goes on there instead of eating a Caesar salad that is literally doused with 3 cups of Caesar dressing.
I love Caesar.
Caesar is really good. I really like the Bolthouse Farm Caesar dressing.
Bolthouse Farms and the Hail Caesar one that you have,
yes, that one's very good.
Chosen Foods, yeah.
Yep.
So you guys, at the end of the day, these shiny objects are basically for us to be able to not feel accountable. Like, they are for us to not feel like we are at fault. And we're not blaming people. We're not saying you're a bad person, but we need to kind of look in the mirror sometimes. And I will say the number one thing that probably stopped me for a very long time was the accountability factor, because the accountability factor forced me to look at the reasons for why I wasn't seeing progress that I wouldn't accept. And the biggest one, and in my situation, I was the type of person that was like doing everything right, quote unquote. Like, I was tracking my intake, I was weighing and measuring food, I was eating really clean, I was exercising too much. I was not managing stress. I was burnt out. I was trying to work at the gym early. I was trying to start the business with Liz. Like, there was a lot of stuff that was going on that finally my coach at the time was like, you need to chill the F out. Like, you are running your body into the ground, and it is the reason that you feel like you feel. And if I didn't have that accountability, I would have kept blaming the shiny objects. I probably would have been like, no, I'm doing everything right. Something's wrong with me. My body is not working right. And in reality, it was me neglecting the stress that I was putting on myself. I wasn't sleeping well. I wasn't getting enough sleep. I was still working out even on poor sleep. Like, there were so many bads with my stress that it was the limiting factor. And I wouldn't give myself that tough look in the mirror and the tough love of, you need to slow down.
Well, I think for a lot of people, we don't ask ourselves the right questions. It's very hard to look in the mirror and take a deep dive look. And also, we don't know maybe sometimes what we should ask ourselves, or what we should evaluate, because we don't have all that knowledge and the education, because we're not working with a coach, or we have never worked with a coach before. You might have done like a Beachbody plan or having a meal plan that gives you, I don't know, fucking tuna for breakfast and salad for lunch.
It gives me so many bad flashbacks.
Yes, I know. I was listening to a podcast the other day and they were talking about eating egg whites and tuna for breakfast, and I was like, vomit in my mouth. Never.
No amount of weight loss is worth having to eat egg whites, and that's it for breakfast.
Yep.
Because there were plans that I followed in the past that is what I did.
Yeah.
Egg whites and like green beans or something, because it was like 1 cup of vegetables and 20 grams of pure protein.
I remember our trainer that used to work for us was competing in a bodybuilding show, and
bodybuilding diet.
He would come in and he would have tilapia and broccoli.
Fucking tilapia. Why do bodybuilders like tilapia so much?
Because it's really lean. Really, really lean. Just white fish is straight up like egg whites, essentially. So he would rotate through his like tilapia and broccoli, and then he would have green beans and chicken, and have egg whites, probably with nothing on it because ketchup has a fucking carbs.
It was like watery. Oh my gosh.
So gross. But here's the thing is like for a lot of people, they don't know how to ask themselves these questions, or it gets uncomfortable and they pull back because
you have to look in the mirror.
You have to
see your faults.
Really take that deep dive evaluation and be honest and say like, I'm not doing everything that I thought I was doing, or I'm not doing these things consistently. Like if we were to look at this on a calendar, am I doing these things 7 days of the week, or am I doing 3 days of the week?
Yep.
Because Thursday through Sunday, I flip the switch,
yeah.
Or maybe it's every other day, or the kids, mess up your schedule. And then 2 weeks go by before we ever made it back to the gym. And like, just, there's so many things that happen in life, and there's so many stressors that happen in life. And a lot of what we do with our clients is we call them on these things, like in a nice way, but like, Sally, what is on your plate right now that we need to delegate or say no to or stop doing altogether? Because we can't keep going down this path. We will never see change if we don't get some of these stressors out of our lives. And that doesn't even look all the time like you're doing something. It could be a mental stress and emotional stress. It could be somebody in your life who is toxic. It could be someone on Instagram that you're following that makes you feel inferior. It could be, I don't know, an email system that you subscribe to. And every time you open those emails, you feel worse about yourself, or you feel like you need to spend $500 on a detox cleanse because that's all you keep hearing about is these fucking juice cleanses. They'll be at your door by 9 p.m. tonight.
Oh my gosh. I get frustrated. Like this was 1000% me. So I'm going to call people right now that are like I was. If you can't take a day off from like exercise, movement, and just chill the F out, that's exactly what you need to do is take a day. Like if that thought is like scary to you, like I don't get 10,000 steps, I don't exercise, I sleep in, I don't wake up and at 5 a.m. exhausted with my alarm to get stuff. Like if that is terrifying to you, that is exactly what you need to do.
Yep.
And that is what I had. Like I've had to, especially this pregnancy has been like a slap in the face of I'm exhausted if I do too much. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that, but like I have had to slow down, and it is very hard for me to slow down.
And I'm going to say that the same thing applies to social media. If you feel like someone told you your Facebook account got deleted or your Instagram account got deleted, you like freak out, you probably need to take a little bit of a social media detox. And you probably need to stop following some of those people.
Yep.
Like I was having a conversation with one of our clients the other day, and we were talking about setting boundaries and also turning off notifications so that you're not waking up to emails, ding, 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 Facebook messages, all these things. Like I got into a really bad routine with that. And my husband was like, you've got to stop. Like you're reading Facebook messages in the morning, you're reading emails in the morning before you ever get up out of bed. Yeah. I don't have that space to get up and put myself into a good state for the day because I'm like on the phone as soon as I wake up. And I'm really trying hard not to do that anymore unless I'm sitting down on my computer. Like Becca said something the other day about like somebody emailed us. I was like, I don't know. I haven't checked the email yet. It was like 7:55 in the morning. And that's not our norm because we are usually on early.
But like
I'm
5.
really, really trying to set those boundaries because what happens is these things become all consuming. And so what I recommend is if you feel like that's a trigger for you, delete your social media apps if you're scrolling all the time. Delete your mail app or your Gmail app on your phone if you can't stop looking at it all the time. Like nothing is an emergency if you don't check your email for 2 hours. If it is, someone will call you.
Yep. Absolutely. The next thing that we're going to call people on, accountability is number 1, inconsistency is the next one. And here's what I will say and challenge people on. If you cannot truly say what things you are doing and measuring and are successful with or not successful with, I promise you're not as consistent as you think. Like if you say, I try to eat healthy, but like, or I eat salads, or I work out, or I sleep okay. Like, I promise you are not doing as much as you think you are. And here's where we need, like, here's the contrast. Here's where I would like someone to be. I'm getting 6 to 8 servings of vegetables a day. I'm eating consistently throughout the day. I'm tracking intake and I've weighed and measured food, or like I've done that in the past. So I know that I'm eating adequately. I eat protein with each meal. I limit going out to eat to once a week. I'm in bed at 9:30 to 10 each night. And I wake up at this time each morning. I feel rested when I wake up. I manage my stress by doing deep breathing each day, 1 time a day, and doing journaling in the morning and gratitude at night. And then doing these these things for more than a few weeks and even more than a few months. Like if you are not measuring what you are doing and truly evaluating if it's successful or not and doing it consistently, like not just, I ate 1,200 calories for a week and I didn't lose weight, so I stopped. Like, you guys, there has to be consistency for months, years. Like, that is what brings long-term sustainable results. And it has to be consistency with things that are sustainable. And so what we always tell people and what I challenge people with is, if you think you are doing well, are you measuring it? And how are you measuring it? And how successful are you with it? So like, get a calendar, get a big calendar for a month, choose 2 or 3 things that you're going to stick to and measurable things, and put green check marks each day that you do them, red check marks that you don't, and see how consistent you are.
Yep. And the other thing that I would just tack on to that is, I think I'm eating healthy, or I eat pretty well.
I hate that statement.
Until nighttime. Okay. You could be consuming a third, if not half of your day from your nighttime, whatever that looks like. Some people it's ice cream, some people it's cookies, some people it's chips or popcorn or wine, whatever. If you're not putting those things into your MyFitnessPal, and you're not putting your bites, licks, and tastes, as we've talked about many times on this podcast, into your MyFitnessPal, that's fantastic that you're eating 1,400 calories of the things that you're tracking. You're probably eating closer to 2,000, 2,200 calories by the time that we add in those nighttime things or these little treats here and there. And that's just the reality. It is not criticizing anybody, because I have been there. I have totally been that person who, like, oh, that was just a bite, I don't need to add it in. Or I don't know how to add it into MyFitnessPal, so I'm just not going to count it. Or if I don't put it in MyFitnessPal, then it doesn't count. All of those things count. I had to have that reality check with myself a few different times in different phases of like, okay, if I'm not seeing the progress that I want, it's also because I'm skipping things and I'm not being 1,000% honest, because there's no point in being dishonest. If you're being dishonest, you're doing a disservice to yourself. It's not about being 100% for your coach or anything like that. Like, I tell our clients, listen, if you don't know how to track something in MyFitnessPal, I'm totally fine with you just making a note in the note section of like, had a half a cookie today, it was chocolate chip, and have no idea, what it was made of because it was homemade by my coworker. At least put it in there so that we know, we can go back and identify like, hey, these are the things that might be impacting our results, or hey, here's where, if these things are going to be in place every now and then, we need to account for them. And so that's where protocols and plans change. And then the last thing that we want to talk about here, overeating on the weekends. I promise you, you are not too busy all of a sudden on Saturday and Sunday to not track your food.
Oh my gosh. You guys, if you aren't tracking your food on the weekends, it's 1,000% because you don't want to face what you're eating. Because guess what? Going out to eat for one meal with a meal that maybe is a little bit more calorie dense and has a drink or two, you can hit your daily calories
very easily. Very easily.
Like, you get, a grilled or fried chicken sandwich with avocado and bacon, aioli, and sweet potato fries, and a beer or two. Guess what? There's 1,600 calories. Like, no problem. And so you are not tracking it because you are not wanting to see what that food contains. And it is very eye-opening how quick that stuff adds up.
And here's where I think that people go wrong. They have this like cheat day mentality or this cheat meal mentality, which I think needs to I wish we could just remove it from people's minds.
I know.
Because what happens is you do the same things like pretty much throughout the day that you normally do. And then you have this like, I've even heard people say, I've heard coaches tell their clients like, take 45 minutes and consume anything that you want in those 45 minutes. What the actual, why?
What? Where
does that come
please
from? Please don't do that. Please don't do that. Or the flip side is, I will fast and I will skip meals all day. And then I just can't control myself and I go ham. And then we know that you overeat, you overconsume, and you feel physically like, oh my gosh, that was so much
Here's
food.
the problem. Guess what that does the next day? It actually will make you more inflamed, retain more water, cause more issues with the scale and bloating than if you were to just eat regularly and have like a maybe slightly higher calorie meal at dinner. And so instead of looking at this like cheat mindset of I am cheating, I am eating bad foods, I am being naughty, whatever, like look at it as I'm going to go out to eat and enjoy an environment with people that I love and want to enjoy the moment. And I'm going to consume a good meal that isn't going to make me feel sick to my stomach afterwards. And I'm going to stop when I'm full.
Yep.
like portions.
Put half of it to go or share it with somebody. That's one of the easiest things. Like, I'll be honest, like my husband and I, we go out to eat 2 times a week usually. Sometimes, very rarely, it's like 3 for whatever reason. But I've maintained my weight. And the reason being is because, one, I pick foods that I feel are healthier, right? Like I love the ahi tuna Life Balance from Cooper's Hawk, their menu. It's so good.
I actually just we got a flyer for a new, is it Poke or Pokey?
Pokey.
Okay. We got a flyer for a new Pokey place that opened up by us. And I'm like, I'm keeping this until the baby's born.
Yes.
Because I
Pokey's
love
so good.
Pokey.
But so for example, I'll get that, right? We might have a glass of wine, but I don't finish it all. If I'm full, I stop and I bring it home. Mm-hmm. Or I look on the menu and I see, like last weekend we went and I was like, I'm not really that hungry and I know we're cooking later today. So I got an appetizer version of the Pokey and it was delicious. I gave one to him. So I only had like 3 of the little, they were like these little corn tortilla things with probably about an ounce and a half of the ahi in them. It was so good. I left satisfied. I was not overly full. And like, that's just how you have to approach it. I think a lot of people, when they go to restaurants, it's like, I got to get the appetizer. I got to get this. I got to get the dessert.
Fit it all in because I don't let myself include this otherwise. And it's that mindset. It's the mindset of like, I have to restrict or else I'm not going to see results. And so when I go out, I want to have everything because I don't want to feel restricted because I hate feeling restricted. Like I'm always making myself feel. It comes back to the mindset. But it also is usually the reason why, even though you think you're in a calorie deficit, you're not actually in a calorie deficit because of the weekends. It is the average, guys. It is the average. And so we need to stop blaming the shiny objects that, here's the thing, society makes it really easy to blame. There's a lot of people out there that are saying that they'll help you balance your hormones and help you lose the weight. And they'll help you, if you just remove carbs are the evil, or go vegan or paleo or whatever the hell it is, guys. Like, no, we need to be consistent with our intake. We need to eat whole, unprocessed foods for the majority of our diet. We need to take care of our bodies and exercise consistently. And we need to be patient. And I promise you, at the end of the day, and this should be refreshing. This should be like, oh, there is a solution for me. You are not that special. Your body and what situation you are in, there is a solution to. There is something that can be found that can be helpful for you to get to a place that you aren't at, that you want to be at. I promise you. And it's not a mean thing that I'm saying. I'm saying like, no, there's definitely a solution. We are not as special as we think. There are our health. There are answers. They might not be the obvious ones that get shoved in your face every day, like the hormones, like the removal of the food groups, like your metabolism. Like, it's the hard work that needs to be put in. And that's why today was a very fiery Friday fire.